In the UK National Archives in Kew, London, within the records of the War Ministry under the code W0373/1, is stored a body of documents that attracts the close attention of military historians and analysts. These are the official award lists and service record journals for officer personnel from the period 1939 to 1945. Among thousands of standard entries, the personal file of Captain, later Lieutenant Colonel, John Malcolm Thorpe Fleming Churchill, who served in the 2nd Battalion of the Manchester Regiment and specialized commando units, stands out distinctly. In the appendices to operational reports for 1940, a unique logistical fact is recorded. This officer officially used individual armament in combat that was completely non-standard for the British Army's supply system of the mid-20th century. This refers to a traditional English longbow with a 100-pound draw weight and a Scottish basket-hilted broadsword, model of 1914. This precedent requires detailed reconstruction from the point of view of tactical expediency, logistics, and the operational planning of the General Staff. Before we proceed to a detailed chronological analysis of the combat journals, the tactical and technical characteristics of this weapon, and an analysis of the operational miscalculations of the Allied command, subscribe to the channel. Your click on the subscribe button directly helps to develop the project, find new archival materials in closed funds, and create large-scale, historically accurate investigations. To understand the conditions in which the described events unfolded, it is necessary to conduct an audit of the military technical readiness of the British ground forces at the start of the Second World War. By September 1939, the British Expeditionary Force was the only fully motorized army in the world. According to the Field Service Regulations of 1935, the basic fire doctrine was built on the standardization of calibers and a high density of automatic and semi-automatic fire. The main individual weapon of an infantryman was the Lee Enfield SMLE No. 1 Mark III rifle, caliber 7.7 mm, with a 10-round magazine, providing a practical rate of fire of up to 15 aimed shots per minute. The primary means of fire support for a platoon was the Bren light machine gun, weighing 10.3 kilograms, with a cyclic rate of fire of 500 rounds per minute. The introduction of a longbow into this structure created an obvious logistical and tactical dissonance. Let us conduct an engineering and ballistic analysis of the weapon that Captain Churchill included in his personal kit. A longbow made of yew wood with a draw force of 100 pounds requires the application of a physical force of approximately 45.3 kilograms to draw the string to its full 30-inch extension. The projectiles used were heavy wooden arrows with steel bodkin-type points, designed to pierce protective equipment. The initial velocity of such an arrow does not exceed 55 meters per second. This is incomparable to the muzzle velocity of a Lee Enfield rifle bullet, which is 744 meters per second. The maximum effective range against personnel with a bow is limited to 150 meters, while the effective range of the standard rifle reaches 500 meters. However, from the point of view of tactical acoustics and concealment, the bow had specific parameters. The complete absence of a report, muzzle flash, and thermal signature made it an effective tool for eliminating sentries during night raids. The kinetic energy of a 60-gram arrow at a distance of 50 meters is about 90 joules. This is physically sufficient to achieve full penetration of textile uniforms and leather equipment elements, inflicting wounds that completely incapacitate the enemy. The second non-standard component of the equipment was the Scottish basket-hilted broadsword. This bladed weapon featured a double-edged steel blade, 85 centimeters long, with an overall weight of 1.2 kilograms. The basket hilt fully protected the wielder's hand and could also function as a steel knuckle duster if necessary. According to British regulations of the time, for close combat, the infantry used the pattern 1907 bayonet with a blade length of 43 centimeters. The total length of a rifle with the bayonet fixed was 1.52 meters. This provided an advantage in trench warfare, but severely reduced maneuverability inside buildings, in dense vegetation, or when disembarking from the narrow hatches of landing craft. A separate broadsword allowed for a higher angular velocity of the strike in confined spaces, where maneuvering a long-barreled weapon was technically difficult. The practical application of these theoretical concepts began in May 1940 in France. The 2nd Battalion of the Manchester Regiment was part of the 4th Infantry Brigade of the 2nd Infantry Division of the British Expeditionary Force. After the breakthrough of German armored units through the Ardennes as part of Case Yellow, British forces began a large-scale retreat towards the English Channel coast. By the end of May, the battalion had taken up a defensive position in the area of the locality of L'Épinette, located north of the transport hub of Béthune. The topography of the area was characterized by flat terrain with an extensive network of drainage canals, which limited the maneuverability of wheeled vehicles and forced enemy infantry columns to move strictly along paved and dirt roads. At 14:15 hours on May 27, 1940, a reconnaissance patrol from the 14th Infantry Regiment of the 6th Panzer Division of the Wehrmacht approached the forward outpost, where a platoon under the command of Captain Churchill was located. The patrol consisted of approximately 30 infantrymen, supported by a motorcycle squad. The British forces were dispersed among the ruins of a brick farmhouse, which provided an all-round field of fire covering the road. This episode reveals the first significant discrepancy in archival sources. The official war diary of the 2nd Battalion of the Manchester Regiment, under the reference W0167/763, contains only brief information for May 27th about conducting delaying actions, the loss of 4 personnel as casualties, and inflicting unspecified losses on the enemy. The use of an archaic weapon is not recorded in the document. However, the reports of the headquarters of the 4th Infantry Brigade and subsequent entries in the personal diary of the brigade commander held at the Imperial War Museum describe in detail that Churchill took up a position on the 2nd level of a ruined barn. From a distance of 30 meters from the enemy's lead patrol, he fired an arrow from a bow, striking a German sergeant major in the chest. This served as the signal to open flanking fire from 2 Bren light machine guns. The German unit suffered 12 killed and retreated. An analysis of this engagement reveals a serious planning error on the part of the British Brigade headquarters. The forward platoon was completely devoid of radio communication with the artillery battery of the 2nd Field Regiment, Royal Artillery, due to the lack of serviceable portable radios. Churchill used the bow as an acoustically neutral targeting instrument, as a shot from a standard rifle would have revealed the locations of the firing positions before the entire German column had entered the zone of sustained machine gun fire. After the evacuation of the remnants of the British Expeditionary Force from Dunkirk during Operation Dynamo, which saw 338,226 Allied soldiers transported to the island nation, the British military leadership began forming special forces units. In July 1940, by Army Council Directive No. 117, commando units were created, subordinate to the Combined Operations Headquarters under the command of Admiral Roger Keyes. Captain Churchill transferred to the 3rd Commando Battalion. The unit was deployed at the Inverary Training Centre in Scotland, where personnel underwent grueling physical and tactical training. This included 60-mile forced marches with full kit, rock climbing without safety equipment, and practicing amphibious assault operations using specialized LCA, landing craft assault vessels. In these units, the standard small arms became .45 caliber Thompson submachine guns, procured under the Lend-Lease program. Weighing 4.8 kilograms, this automatic weapon provided a high volume of fire at distances up to 100 meters, which was a priority for swift assault operations. Churchill, appointed Deputy Battalion Commander, retained a Scottish broadsword as part of his personal equipment. He justified his actions with a psychological factor, asserting during tactical debriefings that the sight of an officer with a drawn blade at the forefront of an assault would stabilize the internal state of the personnel and demoralize the enemy, disrupting their decision-making algorithms. A large-scale test of this tactical concept occurred on December 27, 1941, during Operation Archery. The operational objective of the raid was the German garrison on the island of Vågsøy and the port of Moløy on Norway's western coast. The strategic goal was to destroy fish oil processing plants used by Germany's military industry to produce glycerin, and to tie down substantial Wehrmacht forces in the northern theater of war. The operation involved 51 officers and 514 other ranks from the 3rd and 4th Commando Battalions, with fire support from the cruiser HMS Kenya and 4 Royal Navy destroyers. At 0830 hours, the landing craft approached the coastal strip of Vågsøy Island. The air temperature was -6 degrees Celsius, and the coastal cliffs were covered with a solid layer of ice up to 5 centimeters thick. Captain Churchill commanded Group No. 2, consisting of 2 platoons totaling 95 men. Their task was to suppress a German coastal battery, equipped with 4 10.5 centimeter guns, which were firing directly at the British ships in the fjord. Here the chronicle records a second major planning error related to the operation's topography and meteorological support. According to the Combined Operations Plan, the artillery bombardment from HMS Kenya was to cease precisely at 0847 hours, coinciding with the flyover of 3 Bristol Blenheim bombers from the Royal Air Force's No. 254 Squadron, which were to drop phosphorus smoke bombs to mask the commandos' landing. However, the Air Regiment's navigation service failed to account for a sudden increase in headwind at an altitude of 300 meters to 35 knots. The bombers reached the target 90 seconds ahead of schedule, dropping their phosphorus charges directly into the surf zone. A ground wind of 28 knots carried the smokescreen deep inland before the landing craft touched ground. This left the assault groups without visual cover in front of the fortified bunkers of the German 181st Infantry Division. When the ramp of the LCA-2 landing craft dropped under heavy enemy machine gun fire, Churchill, who was at the front of the landing party, employed an unorthodox tactical maneuver. He produced bagpipes and played the March of the Cameron Men, after which, with his claymore drawn, he led the assault on the shoreline. This action allowed the troops to overcome the state of shock caused by the failure of the smokescreen. The commandos crossed 40 meters of open, rocky beach in 18 seconds, stormed the forward trenches, and engaged in close combat. Using number 36 grenades and the claymore to eliminate the enemy in the communication trenches, Churchill's group completely cleared the gun emplacements of the battery in 24 minutes. The German garrison suffered 18 killed in action, and 23 servicemen were taken prisoner. British engineers detonated the breech blocks of 4 10.5-centimeter guns, completely disabling the battery. Churchill's group's losses amounted to only 2 wounded. In 1942 to 1943, Churchill, who had attained the rank of lieutenant colonel, took command of the 2nd Commando Battalion. The unit was deployed to the Mediterranean Theater of Operations to participate in the landing in Sicily, Operation Husky, and subsequently in the large-scale amphibious operation at Salerno on the Italian mainland, Operation Avalanche. The landing at Salerno on September 9, 1943, by the U.S. Fifth Army under the command of Lieutenant General Mark Clark, encountered a rapidly deployed counterattack from the German 16th Panzer Division. The 2nd Commando Battalion landed in the Vietri sul Mare area with the objective of blocking the mountain pass near the settlement of Piegoleti. This pass was a critical point. Control over it allowed German armored vehicles to reach the Allied supply logistics beaches directly and cut off the landed units from the coastline. By the evening of September 16, 1943, forward detachments of the 64th Panzer Grenadier Regiment of the Wehrmacht had secured positions on the terraces and heights around Piegoleti, establishing covered firing positions for 81mm Granatwerfer 34 mortars and machine gun nests with MG-42s. The density of fire in this sector ruled out the possibility of a successful frontal assault during daylight. At 2300 hours, Lieutenant Colonel Churchill decided to conduct a night infiltration with a single assault platoon of 32 men. An unconventional movement plan was developed for the task. Contrary to the requirements of British manuals for night reconnaissance, which prescribe maximum stealth, Churchill divided the platoon into 3-man teams and ordered them to advance along the bed of a dry stream dispersed over a 200-meter front. Every 30 seconds, all troops were to simultaneously shout the commando battle cry. In the mountainous terrain and confined space, the echo amplified the sound multiple times, creating a false tactical impression among German observers that the attack was being carried out by at least a full-strength infantry brigade of up to 1,500 men. Churchill, moving in the vanguard with Sergeant Raffel, used the acoustic chaos to penetrate the rear of the German defensive line. Physically bypassing the machine gunners' positions, they reached the bunker of the enemy's central mortar battery observation post. The German crew, disoriented by the shouts from the darkness, had not posted close-in sentries. Churchill suddenly burst into the room, with his claymore in hand, blocking the exit. The 5 German artillerymen inside, assessing the threat of a cold weapon in a confined space and being convinced of a complete encirclement, laid down their arms. Using these prisoners as a human shield and forcing them to issue surrender commands in German to neighboring crews, Churchill and Raffel successively bypassed 4 mortar positions. By 0430 hours on September 17th, this 2-man group had, without firing a single shot, incapacitated and captured 42 soldiers of the 64th Panzer Grenadier Regiment, seizing 3 operational mortars and a significant amount of ammunition. The German defensive line at Piegoleti was eliminated. The mountain pass remained under Allied control, preventing a flank attack on the Salerno beaches. For this operation, Lieutenant Colonel Churchill was awarded the Distinguished Service Order. In May 1944, the 2nd Commando Battalion redeployed to the Adriatic island of Vis, which was the only unoccupied Allied stronghold off the coast of Yugoslavia. The headquarters of Josip Broz Tito's partisan forces was based on the island. At the same time, the German command initiated Operation Russelsprung, Knight's Move, a combined amphibious and airborne assault on the town of Drvar, with the aim of eliminating the leadership of the Yugoslav resistance. To divert Wehrmacht forces, the British command of the Balkan Air Force and the Combined Operations Headquarters decided to launch an immediate sabotage strike against the occupied island of Brač. The main node of the German defense on Brač was Hill 622, a rocky summit with continuous trenches carved into the limestone, 3 reinforced concrete bunkers, and an extensive system of anti-infantry obstacles made of barbed wire and minefields filled with S-minen, bounding mines. The positions were held by a battalion of the 738th Grenadier Regiment of the 118th Jaeger Division of the Wehrmacht, numbering about 350 men, supported by a battery of 75mm mountain guns. The tactical plan for the joint operation, approved on June 1, 1944, called for a simultaneous attack by the forces of the 2nd Commando Battalion, 220 men under Churchill's command, and the 26th Dalmatian Division of the Yugoslav People's Liberation Army, about 1,500 partisans. The Yugoslav units were to strike from the eastern direction exactly at 0600 hours on June 3rd, drawing the garrison's reserves onto themselves. Simultaneously, 12 Hawker Hurricane fighter bombers of the Balkan Air Force were to conduct a strafing run on the summit, dropping 250-pound high-explosive bombs on the enemy bunkers. At 0615 hours, the commandos were to begin assaulting the steep western slope. During this operation, the third and most critical failure of planning and coordination occurred, leading to severe consequences for the assault group. From the official reports of the Balkan Air Force under the code AIR 23/7423, it follows that a dense front of cloud cover suddenly formed over their home airfields in Foggia, Italy, causing the Hawker Hurricane sortie to be delayed by 45 minutes. The time of the airstrike shifted to 0645. However, this change was not communicated to the ground forces in a timely manner due to a serious technical miscalculation. The Yugoslav partisan units did not possess radios compatible with British high-frequency networks. Communication was maintained exclusively through British liaison officers using low-powered, portable SCR 536 radios. In the complex mountainous terrain, with signal shielding by limestone cliffs, the effective range of these radios dropped from the designed 1.5 kilometers to a critical 200 meters. The Yugoslav forces, not having received notification of the time change, began their attack precisely at 0600 without air support. Facing concentrated fire from the unusually well-prepared German defense and suffering heavy casualties from mortar fire, the partisan units began a disorganized retreat from the eastern slope at 0635 hours, completely abandoning their positions and having no technical means to warn the British. Lieutenant Colonel Churchill, positioned on the western slope, began the assault at 0645 hours, counting on the eastern flank being pinned down by the actions of the Allies. As soon as the commandos emerged from a sparse band of olive trees onto the open rocky ledges in front of Hill 622, they came under crossfire from 3 MG-42 machine guns, which the Germans had moved from the eastern sector. the density of the lead stream reached up to 60 bullets per square meter of the assault path. Within 10 minutes of combat, most of the battalion's officers and sergeants had been put out of action. Churchill, with the remnants of the headquarters group of 6 men, managed to use depressions in the rock to break through to the ridge just below the summit, finding himself 30 meters from the central German bunker. By 0800 hours, the group was in a complete tactical encirclement. The ammunition for the Thompson submachine guns and Colt 1911 pistols, which amounted to 150 rounds per person, was completely expended. All of the lieutenant colonel's companions had sustained severe shrapnel wounds and lost the ability to fight. In this situation, Churchill took out his bagpipes and began to play the melody, "Will ye no come back again?" At 0815 hours, an 81mm German mortar shell exploded 3 meters from his position. A fragment pierced the side of his steel helmet, causing a severe concussion with loss of consciousness. The interrogation report of prisoners, prepared by the headquarters of the German 118th Jaeger Division, dated June 4, 1944, stated that a British lieutenant colonel, carrying a medieval broadsword and a bow, had been captured on the summit of Hill 622. German Abwehr officers made a departmental error, assuming, based on the matching surname, that they had captured a direct relative of British Prime Minister Winston Churchill. This misconception saved his life, as the division commander decided to suspend the secret commando order, Kommandobefehl, of October 1942, which called for the immediate liquidation of all captured Allied Special Forces soldiers. Churchill was hastily transported to Split Airfield and flown to Berlin for interrogation at the Reich Security Main Office on Prince Albrecht Strasse. After a series of checks confirmed he possessed no valuable strategic information, Churchill was placed in the Sachsenhausen concentration camp in July 1944, in a specialized isolated barrack, Sonderlager A. This facility had a high degree of engineering protection. A double perimeter of barbed wire electrified with 380 volts, concrete anti-tunnel blocks sunk into the ground, and round-the-clock machine gun towers every 50 meters. Despite these technical barriers, Churchill, together with squadron leader Bertram James, devised an escape plan. Over 2 months, using a homemade metal scraper, they carved out a narrow tunnel, 15 meters long, beneath the foundation of the concrete fence. On the night of September 23, 1944, taking advantage of autumn fog that reduced visibility to 5 meters, they breached the perimeter. Their operational plan was to travel on foot to the Baltic port of Rostock, a distance of about 200 kilometers, to subsequently board a Swedish cargo ship. Moving exclusively at night along railway embankments, they covered about 170 kilometers. However, severe physical exhaustion reduced their speed of travel. On September 29th, in the Pomerania region, they were discovered by a motorized patrol of the German Field Gendarmerie and returned to the camp. In April 1945, following the breakthrough of Soviet tank armies to Berlin, a group of 140 particularly important prisoners, including Churchill, was evacuated under convoy to the Alpine region of Austria, to the Tyrol area. The SS leadership planned to use them as hostages in separate negotiations with the American command. At the end of April, at the Niederdorf camp, regular Wehrmacht units under the command of Captain Wichard von Alvensleben, motivated by considerations of the war's imminent end, blocked the actions of the SS convoy and disarmed it, taking the prisoners under their own guard. On May 4, 1945, advanced patrols of the U.S. 85th Infantry Division reached the camp, ending the period of Churchill's captivity. Let us conduct a final, critical audit of Lieutenant Colonel Churchill's tactical methods through the lens of mid-20th century military regulations. To a superficial observer, the use of a longbow, a broadsword, and bagpipes in the context of total industrial war appears to be an irrational deviation. However, an analysis of Combined Operations Headquarters documents indicates that for the specific tasks of commandos, these tools had a clear functional justification. Full-scale combat revealed that standard silenced submachine guns like the Sten Mark II-S had a serious design flaw. The integrated expansion-type suppressor would overheat rapidly after 2 magazines, leading to deformation of rubber baffles, a drop in accuracy, and frequent stoppages due to the accumulation of powder fouling. The longbow was entirely devoid of these mechanical vulnerabilities, providing silent elimination of targets without the need for field maintenance. The Scottish broadsword, in the conditions of night combat within confined spaces, bunkers, trenches, narrow streets, served as a powerful psychological shock factor. German infantry doctrine, as codified in the Truppenführung manual, was based on strict discipline, clear distribution of fire sectors, and predictability of actions. The sudden appearance within a confined fortification of an officer delivering rapid blows with a bladed weapon destroyed habitual defensive patterns, caused instant paralysis, and led to the surrender of entire crews, as recorded in the battle at Piagoletti. The dry statistical summary of John Churchill's service during the Second World War is as follows. He participated in 5 major airborne operations across 4 isolated theaters of war: France, Norway, the Mediterranean, the Balkans. He sustained 2 shrapnel wounds and made 2 escapes from high-security camps. The recorded casualty rates among personnel in the units where he exercised direct tactical command on the battlefield consistently remained below the average values for regular infantry units of the British Army in similar offensive operations. His non-standard armament did not require the allocation of additional capacity from general military supply channels, as it was fully provided for by personal means. This historical precedent proves that even in an era of mass deployment of armored vehicles and automatic weapons, individual, non-standard tactical solutions, supported by a high level of physical fitness and an accurate assessment of the enemy's psychological state, are capable of ensuring the fulfillment of complex operational tasks.